The Sword Online series might be facing its biggest retcon, and it kinda worries me, with Mito from the Progressive Movies being teased to arrive in the next installment of the SAO main series, Sword Online Volume 28 Unital Ring 7. Welcome SAO survivors, it's me Gamerturk, and let's not waste any time. The synopsis of Unital Ring 7 is as follows. The 7th chapter of the Unital Ring arc, where reunions and new encounters await. Kirito versus the mysterious gunner Istar, Alice versus Emperor Agmarl. As the battle rages both at the scene of the Space Force base and the Central Cathedral, the former Guardians of Underworld finally awaken. The Vice Commander of the Integrity Knights Order, Synthesis II, and one of the 7 Ancient Knights, whose name is... Meanwhile, Asuna is met with an unexpected reunion in the real world. Sorry Asuna, for not even contacting you once in 2 years. Now, based on that synopsis, I'll have a companion video to this one coming tomorrow, focusing on the teaser for Edith Synthesis 10 arriving in the main canon from the Unleash Blading mobile game, so make sure to subscribe, hit the bell icon, and check that one out too. But today, we're focusing on the Mito teaser, so specifically the sorry Asuna for not even contacting you once in 2 years portion. So, first things first, we know for a fact this refers to Aincrad. Unital Ring takes place around September-October of 2026, and Aincrad was cleared on November 7, 2024. So, the person talking to Asuna here is clearly apologizing for never contacting Asuna since the end of Sword Online. Joke's on them, they would not be able to contact her anyways due to Sugo's shenanigans at that time, but I digress. And secondly, we know for a fact that it's not a real world friend trying to mean it in the sense of I'm sorry for never contacting you after you managed to escape the death game, you know, a person who was not stuck in SAO but got separated from Asuna because she was trapped, because the text in Japanese tends to be a little bit more descriptive on this front, allowing us to completely rule out real world friends pre-SAO. The sentence explicitly spells out Asuna's name in katakana rather than the usual kanji, indicating they are specifically referring to her gamer tag and not the real name, thus highlighting having spent time with her in Aincrad. Now, as the second step, we need to narrow down the options. There are literally almost 10,000 players in Aincrad. Our key is that the Japanese text also does not use an honorific appended to Asuna's name here. This clearly indicates we're looking at someone who either acts very casual towards everyone or a very close friend of Asuna. Looking back at Aincrad, even the likes of Litten, Shibata, Lind early on before Asuna rose to any kind of fame always referred to her respectfully with honorifics. Only person out of that crowd that I can see not using honorifics towards Asuna is Kibao, and I'm pretty sure he's completely incapable of speaking in proper Japanese. It would kind of stand out in the text. Now, one of the big prospects I saw being rumored here is Nishida from the fishing episodes, but I have no idea how that theory even picked up any steam. Nishida too uses honorifics towards Kirito and Asuna and is generally heard using a very respectful and formal language rather than a casual one. Potentially, there are other side characters. Most prominently who came up is Ashley, Asuna's personal tailor and the person who made Kirito's Blackworm coat, but in all honesty, such a teaser in Synopsis is of huge significance, and I'll be blunt with you, any of the background characters like that, especially the ones who were not able to go beyond a mere name drop cameos in the main series, they do not warrant a teaser in the synopsis of this scale. I can wholeheartedly discard any of those Ashley, Mahokal, or any of the same level of obscurity characters from the chance of being this big reuniting reveal. And I'll go ahead and say, outside of a very small subset of people who would even recognize these characters in the first place, there will be quite the backlash for setting false expectations, especially considering the Mito debacle being blown up to this extent at this point. Oh yeah, let's speak Mito, she's our main suspect here. When Reki was brainstorming on Twitter about a reunion in the real world for Asuna, we had already ruled out Kismel, although that reunion can still happen in Unital Ring. But my mind at first had gone to Shikimi, Kamura Shikimi, who had previously ditched their planned meeting with Asuna due to Mutasina getting destroyed in Unital Ring. That was another hint. But now that the 2-year mention of Aincrad is here in text, the only likely candidate in my opinion that remains is Mito aka Tozawa Misumi from the Progressive Movies. The only concern with this theory is probably the usage of katakana still, as Mito would also use the kanji form of Asuna's name thanks to being pre-SAO friends anyways, but it's not like she's forced to, especially after spending 2 years in the game, and it could simply be a stylistic choice to use kana in Synopsis to draw attention to the they know each other from SAO aspect of things. Remember, the Synopsis is just a marketing slot to get people interested and hint at these kinds of stuff. But with that, we're potentially looking at the largest retcon to ever happen in the SAO series. I love Mito's character, she is one of the best written characters in the series in my opinion, with well-established values, personality and motivations, which is a lot more than what we can say about 90% of the side characters in the series. Shirika, Lisbeth, Klein, Egil, they lean closer to being one-note characters, whereas the likes of Lifa and Shinon are more or less full-fledged characters in comparison, mostly thanks to having an entire arc dedicated to them. Mito absolutely falls into the latter group, which, let's be real, only consists of Asuna, Lifa, Shinon, Yujiro and Alice anyways, and is very much a valuable addition to the group of these well-established characters. The problem shows itself, however, as to how you can retroactively inject such a huge character into a story that has over 35 volumes of established light novels among many other side stories. Eiji and Yuna from Ordinal Scale, they were lucky enough that they could squeeze themselves into an empty space with minimal changes all around, followed by the light novels making it explicitly clear that the Ordinal Scale event happened, Hopeful Chant happened, and Cordial Courts happened. The biggest change that came from this retroactive injection was the existence of Ogma pre-elicization, which, whoop-de-doo, who cares, the Google Glass doesn't change anything. The problem with Yuna and Eiji arose when they appeared in the War of Underworld anime and directly contradicted the events from the light novels, like Eiji stealing the role of Moonshine, the Korean player, which was vital about figuring it out that this was actually a Japanese product, but since it was Ordinal Scale and its tied events only that were made canon in Unital Ring and not the events in the Alicization anime, we still take the light novel version of Alicization as canon on that front. And it remains that way until Reki talks about how Eiji helped the crew in War of Underworld to officially canonize the anime portrayal of the events. If it ever happens, let's hope it doesn't. It is a little bit more complicated when it comes to Mito. I'll be very blunt and thorough here, as a lot, in fact, can be implemented without any issues at all, and a lot can still be incorporated without big problems. And here comes the bluntness. A lot of people have no idea what they're talking about and are just speaking from the mindset of change is bad, due to being traumatized by anime original content in their lives in their various favorite series. So let's quickly cover the arguments. The pre-Aincrad portions in Aria movie, they're literally fine. People say Mito inviting Asuna to play SAO ruins Asuna's backstory, as if it was a huge act of defiance on Asuna's side to have a look into SAO, when all she did was the equivalent of, I'm stressed, let me scroll Twitter for a second. In the light novels, she literally felt stressed and saw the nerve gear and thought, hey, my brother was so hyped about this thing, let me just see what it's about real quick. Anything beyond that is absurd to claim and really has no basis in text. If anything, Mito's invite makes it a more reasonable choice and does not detract from the it was fate for Asuna and Kirito to come together viewpoint. After all, it was still her decision to wear the nerve gear. She hadn't even talked to Mito beforehand that she'd be there. She was just literally jumping in to have a look and maybe find her in Aincrad. They did not save a date with each other to meet up or anything. Asuna was stressed, saw an opportunity, and made that decision herself. Now, the pre-dungeon events in Aria movie. People claim Mito teaching her the ropes kinda takes away from Asuna's self-training. I'm sorry, what now? What self-training are we talking about? In the light novels, Asuna cried about for 3 weeks in an inn room and then headed out into the dungeon to get herself game ended. All she knew was how to use linear, which she repeatedly did, setting up a rhythm, and she was good at dodging things thanks to being athletic. What self-training are we talking about? All she learned from Mito was not to attack a Nepenthes with the ball on the head, and she failed at that teaching anyways. The exact same way she fails at certain instructions during early progressive that is told to her by Kirito in the books. Literally nothing changes here. The real concerning parts regarding Mito are the two boss fights, Illfang the Kobold Lord and Fuscus the Vacant Colossus, and their implications. In the Illfang fight in the movie, she takes up quite the spotlight, which completely rids Agiel and his bro squad of their tank role, but this can easily be chalked up to the anime portrayal aspect of it. It's not like Agiel and co were explicitly stated to not be part of the raid at all. The same cannot be said about Scherzo's Fuscus the Vacant Colossus fight, where the group stated is very explicit. If Mito was there and the movie version trumps, then Neza, the chakram user, was not there in that specific boss fight. There's no other way, it's one or the other. Whether you personally consider that a significant change or not, that is completely up to you. However, the reality is, it doesn't matter. Neza solely existed in that story to counteract a specific mechanic in that boss fight. Pre-movie, our fear as fans about Neza was that his potential removal would mean the removal of the mechanic as well, which would inadvertently water down the quality of the boss fight, which was still in the light novels the best boss fight in the entire series. I have an entire video about that, click the icon on the top right to watch it. But that ended up not being the case. The mechanic was not removed, fully covered, and everyone today almost unanimously agrees that Fuscus fight is the best one in the entire series in anime form as well. So contextually, if you look at what really changed, it was Mito handling the very specific mechanic as the Joker card with an unusual weapon fitting the task, rather than Nessa being the Joker card with an unusual weapon fitting the task. That's really not a significant change in the grand scheme of things. I mean, if we're gonna be that specific, we'd be ripping the anime apart, asking silly questions like, why is this sword skill blue when novels mentioned it as red, or something like, the novel said Kirito used slant but in the anime he used horizontal, what gives? We don't do that because it really does not detract from the narrative at all in any meaningful way. But I said I was worried when I opened up this video, right? That's what got you so far in this video, because you really don't like Mito probably. Why am I worried after shrugging most of these things off as no biggie? Because, much like most of you, I do in fact care for this series and its narrative a lot, and also probably approach it much more seriously than I actually should. Like, asking myself seriously right now, does it really change anything whether it was Mito who participated in the fight against Fuscus or if it was Neza? Especially when Neza participated in other notable events anyways in Progressive? Not really, but the problem is, as a narrative, you cannot have both alternates happen in a singular continuity. As readers, as the fans, we don't get to pick and choose what we prefer as being canon, not in the context of light novels, that is. Actual branching stories that are designed that way, they're a completely different thing, please don't bring them up. In the case of conflicts between anime and the light novels, we can just say, hey, the movie adaptation and the books are just their separate things or adaptation differences, but that argument falls out of the window if Mito is introduced into the light novels and it starts popping up these questions. Is this the movie Mito or is this a separate Mito? How much of what I have seen in the movie are the actual events and how much of the books are the real deal? These are technically easy questions to answer, really. You simply reference key events, something like, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you during the Fuscus fight, Mito, thank you. And then we know the events happened as portrayed in the movie, for example, without Neza. And removing Neza from that boss fight, that doesn't mean Neza never existed either. He still joined other battles, for example, the Floor 2 one, but I fear such questions will not be answered by Reki, and that is going to be the problem. Kawara Reki is someone who doesn't like disappointing people. This goes as far as answering as positively as possible to a lot of things he comes across. He loves his story, and he also loves making people happy with his stories, and to be frank, that is great, that is very commendable. But retconning things so freely without defining boundaries, that does have its own problems too. I will just boil it down to, why should I care about a story if you're just gonna change it anyways? And the answer to that question, the tolerance level every single one of us has, it's different from each other. I personally find replacing entire books a bit too excessive, and I will end up looking for a clear answer if that ends up being the case. But as I enter page 5 of this script, I'm just sinking into the mindset of people just worry so much about canon that they forget these are just fictional things to enjoy and have fun with. I'm questioning whether I really care that much at all on this topic, or whether I'm just trying too hard to remain reasonable in the age of social media, trying to explain basic things to people. I'm not here to fight a crowd of Mito haters or rally a group of Mito stans against the haters. I'm just here to highlight potential pain points and how they can be avoided. It's very simple, really. I hope Reki does not introduce Mito in a way that changes the events of 2 entire books, and he can provide reasonable answers to obvious questions. That's all I'm looking for. If anything, Unital Ring has so many problems with its concept, systems, narrative that whether it was Mito who participated against Fuscus or if it was Neza, that's not really a problem of Unital Ring. Just give a short, clear answer whenever that comes up and just move on into solving the actual problems. Otherwise, finally having a really cool cover with Kirito front and center is not going to help fixing that downward trend the series has been having the past couple years. Let's focus on real criticisms, shall we? Thank you very much for watching. Sorry about kinda jumping from topic to topic towards the end and finishing it off with a lesson, I guess, but it is what it is. I hope you understand where I'm coming from and what I was trying to say here. Thank you very much and stay cool.